Hello and thanks for joining us on the Signature Show for this Sunday. Today on the program, our main conversation of the day is with distinguished Senator Enyinnaya Abaribe. But first, let's look at developments from our last week's program, where we focused on the alleged sale of police residential quarters in Abuja. For the benefit of those that did not watch the program last Sunday, a lawyer, Francis Mbo, petitioned the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, that some individuals in the Nigeria police connived with a private developer to sell police property designated for residential quarters without due process. You can go to www.signaturetv.org to watch the full program. But as we promised on that particular day, to give every organization mentioned in the program a right of reply, we wrote to the Inspector General of Police. We also wrote to the MD, Managing Director, Police Mortgage Bank, and the Managing Director, Corporate Nigeria Limited, inviting them for interviews, and I'm happy to announce that we're already getting responses, and we'll be looking at these responses next Sunday on this program. Before we go to our main interview, let's look at some of the developments around the world in the passing week. And our journey starts from Russia. The big story last week was the death of Russian Wagner leader Yevgeny Prigozhin in a plane crash in Russia. Though international security experts and scholars of Russian politics suggest his death was an assassination, with President Putin being fingered, there is still no concrete evidence to show what exactly caused the accident, and the Kremlin continues to distance itself from the incident, calling such speculation an absolute lie. Also last week, from the United States, former U.S. President Donald Trump was arrested and bail granted following his indictment by the state of Georgia. As usual, Trump insists he has done nothing wrong. Trump was arrested at a Georgia jail on racketeering and conspiracy charges and released on a $200,000 bond after having a historic mugshot taken. Trump was accused of colluding with 18 other defendants to overturn the 2020 election results in the southern state, spent less than 30 minutes inside Atlanta's Fulton County Jail before leaving in a motorcade for the airport. But one thing was very spectacular. Like the other defendants in the case who have surrendered so far, the 77-year-old Trump had his mugshot taken during the booking process, a first for any serving or former U.S. president. But that doesn't really bother him. Back in Nigeria, Abuja to be precise, the ministers appointed by President Bola Tinubu eventually took their oath of office, and many resumed duty immediately. Like they say, they hit the ground running, outlining the agenda for their respective ministries. Signature TV reporters monitored some of the resumption activities, and correspondent Nasiru Usman has a report.
This is Federal Ministry of Health. Many Nigerians have wondered who is going to pilot the affairs of the ministry in the next 4 years. Just a few days ago, President Tinubu has inaugurated his cabinet and assigned portfolios to the ministers. Some of the segment of the society believe that it is a recycling of old leaders, while many believe it is a combination of old leaders and new blood, which is going to be a perfect mix for his new team.
In a call to action, President Bola Tinubu on Monday 21st August urged the recently appointed ministers to collaborate with him to fulfill the aspirations of the Nigerian people through accountability, transparency, and teamwork. In a speech at the conference center of the State House, the President reminded the 45 newly sworn ministers that it is a high honor to be chosen to serve as a minister in the Federal Executive Council.
All of you who have been sworn in have been called to distinguish yourself. Your assignment began immediately. As your country honors you today, by this call to service, you must each work to make yourselves worthy in the eyes of God and all our nation's people.
Shortly after taking the oath of office, some ministers arrived at their designated ministries where they were received by staff, friends, families, and well-wishers. The new ministers used the opportunity to outline their agenda and commitment to hit the ground running.
Nigeria should be expecting a departure from the norm. Everybody knows what's been happening in that solid mineral sector of the economy. It's been frittered away. Nigeria has been shortchanged. We've been receiving the shorter end of the stick. There is going to be a critical departure from that norm.
I'm here to deliver results. I'm here to deliver results. And I need you to help me to do that. I need you, I challenge you, help me to deliver results.
They pleaded to bring about needed change, and high on their list of priorities was to improve welfare of workers and securing their support for the development objective of the present government.
We need to improve health outcomes. That's very important because there is a gap. I have to say, when you fly from Addis to India, you sort of see lots of folks going for medical tourism. It's not something that we in the health sector should actually just rest our oars and say that's normal. We should do something about it, improve our health outcomes. That's second key pillar, which is not only the ministry, it's all actors.
These are turbulent times. From the unfolding political crisis in Niger Republic to the regional insecurity and economic uncertainty, we have a lot of work to do. In due time, we'll also be unveiling a new vision for Nigeria's foreign policy, 4D diplomacy. Through this doctrine, centered on development, democracy, demography, and diaspora, we hope to find modern solutions in order to address complex modern problems.
Yes, I would have thought a Tinubu we know will constitute his cabinets largely on technocrats. But most of these ministers are APC people that fought for the party, so he's just trying to reward them. But largely, we are just putting our eyes on ground to see how they will deliver.
I believe that Tinubu is going to achieve his renewed agenda for Nigerians. We can see now, since the inauguration of the minister, Abuja have started, a lot of activities are starting in Abuja, and I believe in capacity of most of the ministers. Even though as a serving governor, or you have been holding position before, you have not been active, that is because the head is not active. But with President Bola Tinubu, I believe that he is going to direct them and they will do, or else he is going to sack them.
I thought he should commit class suicide and back all the people that supported him and voted for him, and look at Nigeria as a whole and as a unit, not as APC or Yorubas. That's what I mean by committing class suicide and focus on achieving results for Nigeria. But looking at most of the people he appointed as ministers, most of them are round pegs in square holes. So I don't see him, I'm not being pessimistic now. I don't see him, achieving much.
Many Nigerians have said the coming of the ministers will kickstart the functioning of critical sectors of the economy that have remained inactive in the last couple of months. They are hoping that with the new ministers on board, the Tinubu administration will achieve its renewed hope agenda. In Abuja, Nasir Usman for Signature Show.
If not because I'm desperate for it, not because I dey travel this night. What I want use dollar do? What I want use dollar do? No, while I don't come, I beg. I beg, just give me the money like
that's,
that.
$10,000.
$10,000.
That's 7.9 million you're gonna transport to me. What they worry you now? No, we don't already agree 730 before now. How you take be 7.9?
Okay, before I reach here, dollar don't go up. You know my
What they worry you now? What kind of talk be that one now?
Dollar don't go up before I reach here.
All of them they like take advantage of people like this now.
You know like that. You know like that.
Bring them, just bring them like that. Ah! What they worry all of you now?
Sorry, excuse me.
It's not because of say person they desperate. I go follow you. They talk all this kind of thing.
Hello? Hey, that lady. Now go. Thank you.
Okay,
it's 8:30. It's 8:30 now. Sorry.
Are you mad?
You know like that.
Is your family stupid?
You know like that.
They use your placenta. They make small chops. You dey craze. No worry. I know your type. No worry. Hello, Sadiq. Alpha, where you dey? They come my house like this. I need $10,000. Yes, give me your best rate. You say? You don't go trailer go kill your papa. Come kill your mama. You no go better for your papa. See this bastard though. I see the verse say you dey give me 830. This bastard dey tell me say na 880. In the craze.
880. That's wrong. Why you man be wicked? Now man they do man.
People so stupid. Which kind rubbish be this one? I don't understand.
Sorry. I dey come.
I even the verse say.
Hello.
Just give me the dollar.
Hey Musa. 900. Okay, it's 900 naira now. That is 9 million. I'm sorry.
Wait.
Okay, just change it now before you increase. Change it now. That's 9 million. Okay, just change it now.
No worry. Bring am. Which kind wala be this one now?
Sorry, my phone call there.
If you pick that call, if you pick, I go drink. They will pick your dead body here. Nigeria will happen to you.
Okay,
I go drink your blood. You the craze. Give me that money.
You know like that. Okay, never take my call, brother. Maybe me want change money for you.
I swear.
Hello? 1,200. Okay. Nigeria.
Now to our main interview with Senator Enyinnaya Abaribe. My pleasure to welcome to our program distinguished Senator Enyinnaya Abaribe. Distinguished Senator, glad to have you.
Glad to be here. Thank you.
Well, the last election, a lot of people, wonder how you surmounted the challenge, how you were able to win with all the roadblocks, with all the challenges. Of course, in your old party, that's where you would have wanted to run for that election, or even run for the election, since you also wanted to run for the office of governor. But at the end of the day, you ended up in another party, and I think you were the only senator of that party that survived. How did it happen?
Well, I can't say how it happened. I think that we'll just say that we thank the people of Abia South Senatorial District who found me worthy to be sent back to the National Assembly. In actual fact, I think that election was essentially a contest that was between the records of the incumbent governor at that time in Abia State and my own record for the people of the senatorial zone. I know that a whole lot of people were so interested in it from all over the country. First of all, because the habit and the tendency had been that governors exiting from their positions will all want to come to rest in the National Assembly. And I think in the 2023 elections, about 7 governors or so were unable to make that transition, which means that I wasn't the only one. I was able to surmount an incumbent governor. What I mean by records is that INEC also has some kudos. The National Assembly also has some kudos because if you remember, we fought hard to bring in electronic transmission of votes, results, and what that meant was that you could be sure that nobody will go to a center and write results like used to happen in the past. And so, as results were coming, they were also being uploaded at the appropriate time. Never mind what happened with the presidential one, which happened at the same time. That is sub judice now, so I will not comment about that. But that for our own, the Senate and the House of Reps were all uploaded. And of course, INEC saw the results, they were clear. The people of Abia South senatorial zone decided that on balance, that I represented more of what they wanted than the incumbent governor at that time, and they made their decision based on that.
You have, over these years, really, really wanted to be governor of your state. Probably because of some of the things you've told me. I mean, looking at the job of a legislator and looking at the job of someone in the executive, probably you still feel or felt that if you were in the executive, you can do more for the people of Abia. Do you have any regrets that you have not achieved that ambition and that you're back in the Senate?
No, I don't. Not at all. The point really is that you can seek for something and you don't get it. So if you don't get it, what will you do? You move on. What actually has happened, I think we can also locate it in the general Nigerian malaise, which is that there's always an effort to make sure that the right people are prevented from coming in to do the right job. And so I found that at every point that I go to seek for the position of governor, there's always all manners of obstacles. Not from the people, because we hadn't come to that point, but from the party apparatchik, the people who decide within the party who gets what. And so in the last one, never mind the previous one, it's a story for another day. But in the last one, what really happened was that there was a mistake by the political parties, which has now been cured by a court judgment. That mistake was this. At the point at which we in the National Assembly were amending the Electoral Act, apparently, after we had done the specific amendments, when it came to the fact for who will determine within the parties who becomes a candidate, that is, who becomes a delegate, it was already in the old Electoral Act that party executives were supposed to be candidates. So it was assumed that it was there, but we now added a proviso to say that there will be 3 persons elected who will join the party executives. But it was now found later that it wasn't uploaded. Now, when we made the argument that it didn't really matter, because we also said in the Electoral Act that the parties have a right to make their decisions on who. But the party apparatchik, seeing let me say, seeing an opportunity, latched onto it, and now said it was only those 3 persons. So what we found in all the parties was that, okay, we're going to do elections for 3 persons, who will, and the elections were supposed to come from bottom up. But of course, as you know how it happens, party executives in each state now went to the leader of the party, which is the governor, and now they simply wrote list of names of who
The three delegates.
who became the three. And so that was how the infamous three-man delegate thing now came about. So ultimately, it meant that one single person now had to determine who becomes a candidate at all levels. But that's not democracy, that's something else. In Abia State, for example, the party went from controlling all House of Rep candidates, the 8 of them, to 1. Went from controlling 2 senators and 1 APC senator to no PDP senator at all. Went from controlling the government through the governor to another government. So, and this was replicated in so many other states. So you could see that that singular decision to close your eye to what was in the law and take what you thought was expedient to give you power ended up costing the party so much. Because that's what happened. P2B left, so many other people left. In Abia, so many of us who were the pillars of the party walked away, and that was the end of the day for them.
Okay, let's look at the Igbo position today in Nigeria. Some people say Igbos are permanently disadvantaged in Nigeria with what has happened. The example is, every other zone has, been given an opportunity to be president. And this time that it looked like clearly it was the turn of the Southeast, the rest of Nigeria won't let them get that opportunity. Some Igbos and Nigerians think that maybe the Igbos should be blamed for what happened to them. And for others, it's an intentional action by the rest of Nigeria to make sure that the Igbos remain marginalized. In all this, what is your position and how do you see it?
Well, I don't see us marginalized. I think that if Igbos feel anything, we shouldn't bother. Look, Igbos took the best decision in the interest of Nigeria. And I will explain what I mean. At the point of when Igbos collectively determined that Obasanjo should be supported, despite the fact that an Igbo man, Alex Ekwueme of blessed memory, had just been denied the opportunity by the then military that are going to hand over. And despite the fact that Igbos were actually looking at the whole thing at that time for national unity, Igbos still supported Obasanjo. Now, and you know what happened thereafter. He formed a government that has remained the best government till date in terms of economic revival of the country. And what did he do? He didn't marginalize anybody from the Southeast. He actually used the eggheads from the Southeast as the core of his cabinet, and eventually led to a government that was able to exit this debt peonage that we have just been brought back to. When the Igbos also supported President Jonathan, it was also because they saw that he was a better economic manager than whoever contemporary was running against at that time. And he also ended up making Nigeria, at that time, one of the fastest growing economies in the world, and and of course, at the point at which the APC with propaganda brought everybody and said, oh, it was going to be another person, Igbos saw through that whole propaganda and never supported that government.
The Buhari ticket.
The Buhari government. We never. And what happened? It took us all the way down into where we now went from a government that didn't owe to a government that today is not able to actually pay its way. So what does that mean for us? What it means essentially is that Igbos have always taken the best decisions for the rest of the country. Why? Because we're always everywhere. We know everybody. We are part of everything. So the question is that from the time that President Buhari became president, he made it a point of duty to Fulanize the country. And at every point, made every effort to make a section of the country, the southeast, a pariah. And that particular trend is what we are seeing with the present government.
Are you suggesting that what happened to Igbos in the 2023 presidential election, starting from 2022 as we're preparing for that, that it could have been an orchestrated plan by the Buhari government to ensure that the Igbos were seen as pariahs?
Yes. There were a lot of Igbos who left and from the PDP government then on the premise that they were promised that they were going to be president and that the President Buhari was going to make them president. That also was what they felt. But when they now entered that, I would say, the political arena that was represented by the Buhari government, what did they find? They were also
disappointed?
Yeah, disappointed. So I think that it's nothing but a deliberate action. But I've never felt, I don't feel marginalized. You can say that you won't let me be minister of finance, you won't let me be minister of petroleum. Where does that get you? The essential thing is this. For this country to work, we need the best hands. And if you now want to keep away a section that is very innovative, that's very highly educated, that also knows the wherewithal of how to make the country prosperous, you're only hurting yourself. You're not hurting the Igbos. If you check the statistics everywhere, if not for the sit at home every Monday and all these people running around in the Southeast, murdering people and killing people, the statistics does not show that where all these presidents come from, who have tried to denigrate and push down the Igbo, that their standard of living is better than the average person in the village in Igbo land. It's not. So what is it that you're doing? Actually, all you're doing is simple. You're cutting off your nose to spite your face.
Some people have said that, yes, there might be this intentional effort to, put Igbos down. There might be. But that Igbos have not done enough to help themselves. And they've said that, for instance, when the Southerners wanted to be president, they went out of their way, organized themselves, try as much as possible to speak with one voice, put money together, fought for it, and then when they had secured it for themselves, they now decided who was going to be. They said when the Yorubas, 1993 and all those challenges, you saw, a combined energy, that this is a collective challenge, and they were working. Not that everybody said it was going to be Obasanjo, but there was a tendency that everybody knew that there was a project. Bring this thing back to the southwest, and then we can decide who it goes to. They accuse the Igbos of not having this kind of synergy.
We make a decision on who is the best person to do A, B, or C. And if anybody comes around and tells you that, oh, they love Igbos is because we don't come together, you ask them, did they also come together? At the time that Shagari went and did his own election, he fought against Adamu Chiroma. He fought against, there are so many of them that he fought against. At the point that the decision was taken, they now left. At the time that Obasanjo came, he also fought against Falaye and Bolaige and all that. So what happened? So what I'm saying is that at the time that people deliberately concoct something and do something bad against the Igbo, they now turn around, turn it all the way around and say, oh, it is the Igbos themselves. No one in Nigeria has said, we have all come together and have agreed. In fact, that is why you find out that, okay, Igbos don't love them, Igbos don't, but what happened during the last election? Peter Obi took all the votes in the Igbo land. And everybody who complained went to check and found out that it was correct. Why? Because Igbo saw him as the best person to run our economy at this point that we need a sane, sober, very, very meticulous and prudent person to run this government. And of course, what are we seeing today?
They didn't vote because he was an Igbo man.
No Igbo voted him because he was an Igbo man. They voted him because they saw him as the best person. And I stand to be challenged by anybody. And that is why you could see that his appeal was countrywide. Never mind whatever you hear today about, he didn't win in this area or that area. It's not true. All the people that were deprived, disenfranchised, disadvantaged, and all that, saw him as a beacon of hope. And that is the fact. We don't run away from fact. Well, what I'm saying is that you don't win elections or you don't run elections, let me just put it that way, without passing through a political party. Now, the major political parties had a decision to make. And Igbos who were in those political parties made their case and said, this is the time for us. Yet, all the decision makers in those major political parties denied the Igbo the chance. That's all. And nobody can controvert what is a fact.
You've picked holes with the conduct of some persons in the IPOB and all those insurgent groups. Specifically, you talked about Simon Ekpa. And I'm asking, I mean, you are one of the highest ranking political office holders from Igbo land. Is there no way that negotiation with the government, conversation with the government can lead to probably a diplomatic action to, check the actions and activities of some of these Igbos who are causing trouble from outside Nigeria?
I'll give you just one scenario. There's a guy who was the leader of the Yoruba
Sunday
Igboho. It's in Benin Republic. The government engaged with the Benin government and eventually got him arrested by the Beninois government. That's what happened. And when they did so, they now tried him, and I think they kept him quiet. What is the problem in the Nigerian government engaging with the Finnish government for somebody who has posted on his page, media page, made broadcast and all that, urging people to kill other people in Nigeria? And everybody seems to keep quiet within the Nigerian government. So that is why a whole lot of people in the Southeast think that it is nothing but also part of, I would say, benign neglect of the Southeast by the federal government. And we have also, on our own, tried to engage the government. And we always assure, don't worry, we're going to look into it. But there's no concrete action, which suggests that some people prefer what is going on in the Southeast, where all manners of persons, criminals, false flag operations, and I deliberately use that word, false flag operations, cultists, kidnappers, all that, everybody has come into the fray, and the place has become
some say the governors are not doing enough.
I don't think anybody can blame the governors. The reason is simple, too. No governor can give an order to a DPO. None. Because a governor calls a DPO and says something is happening in your area, he has to call his police commissioner. The police commissioner has to call the
police IG.
Inspector General of Police. In fact, he had to call his AIG. His AIG is going to call his Inspector General of Police. And then, so, you will always find, and of course, if the AIG is not interested or he is suborned in some way, he can just tell them to ignore. Because the question is here. The Southeast is the most policed place in Nigeria today. Yet, people will just come out, kill, and run away. And nobody. Yet, if you go from Onitsha to Aba, you will count not less than 95 checkpoints. If you go from Enugu, same thing, anywhere you go in the Southeast. In fact, some are just not up to 1 kilometer. 500 meters apart, there's also another police checkpoint. What are those people doing? Yet, for insecurity, the Southeast continues to wallow in insecurity, despite being the most policed place within the country. So you don't blame the governors.
People like you and those that are not Southeasterners have argued that releasing Nnamdi Kanu would help to douse the tension in the Southeast. Yes, they agree that there's a judicial process that's going on. A number of them also think that a political solution could help. Once again, you're high up there. People like you, are you having conversations with the executive to see that they look at this political alternative and see if truly that can douse the tension in the South?
Yes, there are conversations going on.
Are you getting positive replies or responses?
No, not at all. Not yet. But there are conversations going on. And we are telling them these are the facts. The question is this. Most of all these kidnappers, murderers, and arsonists, and all these people who are running around, including the false flag operations people.
What do you mean by false flag operations?
What I mean by false flag operations is that somebody like Asari Dokubo openly confessed on television that, oh, that he came with his boys to come and cause mayhem in the Southeast, and nothing happened to him. Which means he was sent by some people within the government. Nothing has happened till date, despite his making such an outrageous statement. So, what I mean, in effect, is this. While the conversations are going on, the fundamental thing that everybody knows, including those in government, because we have pointed it out to them at all times, is that these people use the incarceration of Nnamdi Kanu as a hook in which they continue to say, except he's brought out, we will continue doing what we're doing. Of course, that is not true. It is not by killing another Southeasterner that you're going to bring him out. And we have pointed that out clearly to them. But the point is this. Nnamdi Kanu remains part of the solution that must be used to resolve all the issues. And so, I wouldn't say much more about the conversations that we're having, but be rest assured that we are making these points very clear.
Let's leave the Southeast, let's leave the question. Let's go back to the National Assembly. This, in quotes, tradition, and in quotes, take a bow in the National Assembly is getting a lot of Nigerians worried, you know, especially when it comes to clearing ministerial appointees, other appointees of the federal government. And people are asking, is this not promoting the challenge you've talked about even in this interview, poor recruitment of public officers? Is it not encouraging mediocrity? And then putting the legislature in a situation where Nigerians continue to say that they are compromised? Is it not something the National Assembly can change and do a thorough job when nominees' names come before them and insist, for instance, that the president, if he's bringing Vin Martinillo or Keiko Kafo or Ahmadu Ali or whoever, that a portfolio should be attached so that those of you in the National Assembly can ask specific questions, evaluate qualifications, evaluate whether they have what it takes to serve in those positions, instead of telling them, take a bow and go.
Yes. At the moment, there's a proposal for that. There's a proposal. We have tried it before. Like you stated when you started. I've been in National Assembly for some time now. I came in 2007. And so I've seen most of the efforts that had been made by members of the National Assembly to get the executive to attach portfolios to whoever they are sending to us have always been resisted, not by members of the National Assembly, but by the executive themselves.
What do you do about it?
The point really is this: if you don't get the buy-in of the executive in a bill to make it law, if they don't sign it, you still come back to zero.
Would it be correct to say because of this resistance?
No.
Just
it's
a
not,
minute.
it's not correct.
Because of this resistance by the executive, that the accusation of rubber stamping by the National Assembly can hold.
No, it's not correct. Let me also say this. Any member of the National Assembly who comes and is nominated to come to become a minister has that privilege. It does not stop us from exercising our right to ask questions. And in fact, some of them have come and said, ask me any question. I think that as much as we look at that, we should also look at the executive. A president brings Mr. A, and he says to us, we have checked him, we have looked at his credentials, we have done security check on him, and we have seen that it's nice, it's clear, it's decent, and so you do that. First of all, we don't have the capacity to do a security check because we don't know whatever. What comes to the security should not come to. Where we get petition, we get all manners of things that we can use. It now behooves on us to say, okay, if you're a member of the, you can, as a member of the National Assembly or former member of the National Assembly, you come there, you say, no, I would like to. But then, you're a medical doctor. What question will I ask you? Not knowing where you're going to be deployed.
But that brings me to the question, sir.
Back to where you came from.
It brings me to the question. This creates a problem for the National Assembly. Why, for instance, when the National Assembly say, we've talked about this from 2003 to 2007 and all that, and then you are going the same route once again, we are not debating on this until you do the right thing.
Precisely.
What stops the National Assembly from doing that?
We don't have such powers to determine for a president who he brings. I said at the beginning, the law does not require him to attach a portfolio. We have tried, and we're still going to try, because I think that should be axiomatic now, seeing what is going on, that we must make a legislation to ensure that whatever you're bringing as to us, you must attach a portfolio so that we know. Because what we now do is we guess. So in the last one, okay, there's a Latif Fagbemi, there's a Festus Keyamo, they're both sons.
So any one of them
and then any one of them could be, this is so, okay, do we ask you a legal question? Do we ask you a general question? What do we do? I think that what is going on, to my mind, if I'm a president, I will never bring somebody without being sure that that person is number. I'm telling you, all that we find is that presidents appoint people based on sometimes primordial sentiment, sometimes job for the boys, sometimes reward for political loyalty, sometimes, you know, and then 1 or 2 or 3 on the basis of their pedigree. And it's affecting the country.
It is laughable that a portfolio is reserved for Kaduna State. The president has not seen the candidates. He doesn't know who they are going to be. And then a portfolio is reserved for Kaduna State. And I think is ridiculous.
Well, that is your own words now, a portfolio reserved for a state.
But that's what they sent to your assembly. And I didn't see any senator saying, why should this be?
No. They didn't tell us that the portfolio was reserved.
No. It's written right there. They said, so-and-so portfolio, Kaduna State. There was no human being.
Well, at that time, you got that at the point of swearing in, not at the point of they are being sworn in, they are being screened.
Does it not
if it came at the point of being screened, somebody will have asked that question. What do you mean a portfolio is being reserved for this? I tell you, we have now moved from the ridiculous to the sublime. I mean, it's just a crying shame that in the 21st century, where India has just landed a probe on the moon, not just where they always land, but at the south pole of the moon, to look for water. India, that was at the same point with us in the 50s and 60s. And so you want to ask yourself, what is it that we are actually doing? Now, when we even had the number of people that were being brought, that told any discerning mind in Nigeria that this government has still not gotten their focus right.
Didn't it bother the members of the National Assembly?
It bothered us, but we
that
do not.
A name was forwarded to you, and you were getting ready to screen this person, and then is withdrawn, and then we hear the presidency and the state saying, we don't know who nominated her, or we don't know who put her name, or we don't know who. But didn't you find it embarrassing?
Well, personally, but not the National Assembly. We don't do nominations.
No, that's what I'm saying.
The person that should find it very embarrassing is the president and his cabinet, his members themselves. Because they are the people who have ridiculed the country.
Yes, because we hear Ganduje, who is the national chairman of APC, saying that we don't know who nominated her, and the president has asked me, did you nominate her? And I'm asking the other person, and you're talking about security reports that a minister of the Federal Republic could have been nominated, and no one in the presidency knows who put forward her name.
Well, I think that's a question that people in the presidency will be much better positioned to answer.
We leave it for them. But when you look at all this, we look at the 45 individuals that have been nominated and portfolios assigned to. Does it give you hope as a Nigerian, not just as a senator?
There's a French author. I want to remember his name now. A French author made a quotation called "Plus ça change, plus on même chose." The more things change, the more they remain the same. What we're saying is actually the Buhari redux. It's something. We're not seeing anything that is progressive. You understand? So it's still the same APC. It's still the same mishmash of things. It's still the same misalignment of priorities. It's still the same taking one step forward and taking 10 steps backward. Of course, I really don't blame the APC. What would you do? They told you that they were going to do renewed something. We never asked them, what were you going to renew? We didn't know they were going to renew the same old things. And that's all that they did. So, it bothers everyone who is a patriot that we don't seem to be going forward. First of all, I can give you what my own feeling is. Number one, we're in serious trouble. Bloomberg, I think they wrote something the other day about our foreign exchange down to $3.7 billion. That means that a government that is actually, should be prudent, number one. First of all, you will be very, very prudent. You reduce your number of cars, you reduce the number of planes, you reduce the number of ministers, you reduce everything. But now, we simply see an overbloating of everything. So what do you think you're going to get? What will you get? It just seems that they do not seem to understand the depth of the problems of the country. Look, at the time that Obasanjo came in 20-something years ago, we had a foreign reserve of 4-point-something billion. He built it. Built it to the extent that he now also exited us from debt. So, what we're saying does not seem like an A-team that will take us where we need to go. All that we seem to say is, like I said before, same old, same old.
Distinguished Senator, I'd like to thank you
My pleasure.
for your time and your always sincere opinion. I'm really, really happy.
It's my pleasure. At any time,
you
can always call me. Anytime. Thank you.
Well, that's our package for today. Thanks for watching. I am Vin Martin Obiora Ilo from Abuja, Nigeria. Remember, you can watch this program and there are many other programs if you go to www.signaturetv.org. Don't also forget that you can reach us on our social media handles, including our phone numbers and our email. Until this time again, next week, do have a wonderful week.